Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Culture Books podcast. My name is John, and I'm joined by
Sheridan.
And it is the 16th of September, 2023. A very bad cat is moving things around, if you can hear strange noises. I have killed the clock for the duration of this recording. Fans of the clock from last episode, sorry about that. Okay, I'm just going to go do something about the cat. You are a very bad cat.
Maybe I'd take those away because that's what he's after. In fact, you could put them on the carpet and you might enjoy them.
Well, let's try and proceed with this podcast. So this is episode 8 of Use of Weapons. This is our third season, season 3. Due to the very strange chapter structure of Use of Weapons, it jumps backwards and forwards. This chapter is called 4, even though it's episode 8. And it is, in fact, the 7th chapter.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. So, what do we do at this point in the show, Sheridan?
You have 30 seconds to recap what's happened so far.
Jesus, I don't know. There's a thing called the Culture. It's got great big minds. There's little robots running around. There's a dude who's doing something for the Culture. He's got some sort of tortured past. They've got to go find him wherever he is so that they can maybe try and use him to stop a war happening. And we're discovering more about his dark past. Here we go, 7 seconds to spare.
Well, you should probably give me your 7 seconds because...
You've got a bit to go on with?
Well, I've written too many notes and I can already tell it's not going to go well for us today. Okay. But we'll see.
All right. So your time starts in... So Sheridan is going to recap chapter 4. The chapter called 4.
Yes.
Okay. In 3, 2, 1.
We start with an orgy. Everyone's hanging out on a ship. Then they find where Zakawi is and send a General Systems vehicle to come get them. And you find out a bunch of stuff about Zakawi's past, including that he seems to have PTSD and Livueta seems to want to kill him. They land in a city and you find out that Zakawi sold his de-aging tech to a bunch of aristocrats, and they've given him crap tons of money. And then they seem to find him, but he's on a submarine. Actually, that was pretty good.
It had some problems, but...
What do you mean? What's the problem?
How about you finish up your recap and we'll discuss your problems?
And he gets out on a submarine, so they follow him, and then they find him. What's wrong with my recap?
So, we didn't actually start with an orgy. We started with the end of an orgy.
Oh my God. Okay, it's that kind of criticism that I'm getting.
And, you know, the GSV is coming to help them, not to get them.
Well, when I mean get them, I mean pick them up to take them somewhere.
They're already on a very fast picket.
Oh. The GSV is coming to support them.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. There's a lot of there's still a lot of technical errors there.
And there are so many ships in this episode that I lost track of which ship was which.
Yeah, there was crap tons of them.
So we are going to get to play favourite ship.
I don't. But they had no personality.
Okay. Well, Xenophobe's got personality.
Yeah. He seems to watch them do the orgy.
Well, Skaffen watched as well, but, you know. I just loved how, we'll get to this, but, you know, Dizzyette, you know, planning to take her to the wank break on the submarine, getting disappointed that Skaffen hadn't made some porn of her to enjoy it. Okay, so as usual, the openings of these chapters are always shocking and confusing. So to quote, "The fact remains," Skaffen and Amtiskor insisted, "that the last time we went through this rigmarole, Zakawi fucked up. They froze his ass in that winter palace." So that's referring to the earlier chapter we had when Zakawi was in the palace with the horrible aristocrats.
Yeah, you seem to learn that he really made a mess of things there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really get too spoily there, but certainly Zakawi did not break out of the siege the way they wanted him to. Although, if you remember from Zakawi's point of view, he wasn't even sure they actually did want him to. They'd told him they wanted him to, but he wasn't sure exactly what game they were playing.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, but we certainly get a real view of the drone being like Zakawi is washed up, he's useless, and he's just a menace to anything we get him involved in.
Yeah, the drone definitely wants nothing more to do with him.
Yeah, and I did also... The extent to which the drone viewed him as being a wasted asset was certainly a new insight. Yeah. And then we get to... Do you want to try and describe the aftermath of the orgy as we read about it in this chapter?
Well, it seems like Sma's vagina is very sore.
Just the vagina?
What? Oh.
I don't know.
It said it was slippery, so... Although I guess, need some lube for the butthole.
I got kind of just a down there sense, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to ask too many questions of exactly...
I wasn't thinking there was anal, but maybe that's just... My mind just wasn't really going there.
Okay. Wow, this podcast is going for an X rating now.
It was quite a good description of what your pits are like after you've banged too much.
Yeah, I'd say he consulted with some women for this one. But,
although I have to say, she does seem to have a very nice bath, but I feel like a shower would be more in order. You don't really want to wade around in the water.
You want everything to sluice off.
You want everything, yep.
Right, okay. I did like the drone turning up. Oh, you've made friends with the crew then. And she says, very good friends with all of them by the feel of it. And then this is a recurring theme where she's like, oh, did you record anything last night? The drone says, I would not be so ungallant. And then it says, but the memories... Your appetite and stamina are a credit to your species, I think.
He seems a bit worried that he might be in the... Well, I don't know.
I think this is just a joke, but, when he says, judging from last night, even an innocent offensive model drone isn't safe from you once you get them between your teeth. Who knows what devices were employed. So, anyway, we certainly get a sense that the culture knows how to have fun and be adults about it.
Well, they're hedonists, yeah.
But the way that everyone just said, okay, well, that was a fun night, but now we're going to...
Although she does allude to them being a bit embarrassed to be around each other, but they seem to be okay.
Well, she's making the point they're okay about it.
Yeah.
And they're not getting weird about it. Yes. And we find out that Diziette's dogs have had... Twins, so that's nice.
Cute.
Yes.
I like how she says, oh, I'll send a message for my robot to kiss the dog. And then she was like, it's probably already done that.
Yeah. It's me. Yes. And then we learn about the GSV called What Are the Civilian Applications?
I didn't love the names in this chapter of the ships, actually.
All right. But, the unfolding description of this, where the drone says, that's a continent-class GSV. Subclass prompt. One of the limiteds. And then she's like, hang on, how can it be a general systems vehicle if it's limited? Make up your mind. And he's like, no, it means like it's a special edition. So what you've basically got here is a high-speed Death Star. Is the best way I can explain what we're talking about. And... the awe-inspired tones that Skaffen's got suggest it's a very rare piece of kit, even for the
olive and purple
culture.
Seems an odd combo, but for awe, it sort of sounds a bit like it might be a bit pukey coloured.
Depends how much red wine you've been drinking. But, yes, and saying she'd never seen that expression on Skaffen. And she's like, it's heading for Crystallia. It's like, what, for us? He's like, nobody will say, but it looks to me a whole general systems vehicle just for us. Wow. I've been remembering this has got millions of humans on board, as well as all the facilities to recreate the entire culture from scratch. And then we also meet the General Contact Unit, Very Little Gravitas Indeed, which has picked up Zakawi.
Well, it hasn't got him. It just knows where he is.
It's picked up his location. Picked up where he is. And then the drone's saying, hang on, this is going to be a complete debacle. Zakawi's lost it.
It seems like they really have messed with Zakawi's head, though.
Probably. What do you
Well,
say?
he's clearly got PTSD.
Well, I mean, we got a very strong sense of the PTSD in the last Zakawi chapter on the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a deeply messed up dude.
Yeah.
I mean, still a bit of a superhero, but deeply messed up one. And, Skaffen going on, it'll be another Winter Palace job, I can feel it. Now, interesting Diziet's perspective on that, saying, I don't know what happened there. He got into that siege and just wouldn't break out. We warned him, we told him in the end, but he just couldn't do it. I don't know what happened to him. I really don't. He just wasn't himself. Now, here's a line that we're going to come to in the next chapter, where Skaffen says, well, he lost his head on foals.
So I assume we're going to find out what happened.
Yeah. Maybe he lost more than that. Maybe he lost it all on foals. Maybe we didn't quite save him in time. And then Sma, we're going to revisit this when we get to this chapter, saying, oh, we got to him in time. Drone's saying, it was still traumatic. And she's like, oh, well, yeah. Anyway, we'll find out what happened to him there. And that is literally happening in the next chapter. So let's not jump ahead too much. Okay, and then we get the view of they're heading down into this planet and diving under the water. And then the drone's reminiscing on the last time they met Livuetta. So what did you think of this?
Well, why does he calls her Livuetta the Contemptuous?
As in she had contempt for Zakawi?
Well, I didn't know if it was just for him.
Yeah, I'm willing to skip far enough ahead to say it was referring to her.
I mean, I'm a bit worried that Zakawi's done a bit of a Me Too on her.
Okay, well,
it says that she tried to kill him, and then they have a conversation about for what. Mm-hmm. Something he did in the past. He's looking for forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, he must have done something pretty messed up.
Now, here's an interesting thing. Sma saying, Contact hasn't got around to doing the full procedure on the place we think he came from. Do you think Contact actually hasn't, or they're just not telling her?
Well, this is the thing, right? Because what comes out later in the chapter is when he's selling off this de-aging thing, this is one of the worst things that he could possibly do.
It's not that he's selling the de-aging, it's the way he's interfering in the politics.
This guy is super dangerous to their mission. Mm. And they can't even be asked, investigating what motivates him. They have to have.
That's where, and we'll get much more into what the culture actually knows and what the culture's telling Dizier. See, I suspect the culture knows more than they're telling Dizier.
Yeah.
Well, the culture. Bits of special circumstances might know more, but they're not sharing their information perfectly. That's a possibility. Or maybe they just haven't. Maybe. We can only go from what's on the text. Okay, and then what did you think about the conversation about forgiveness?
What do you mean? Well...
Well, she's talking about meeting Livuetta, saying, I don't know, I think he loves her, or did, and still thinks he does, or just wants... What? Wants what? Go on, you tell me. Forgiveness?
Yeah, well,
Hang on, can I finish the line?
Sorry.
Sma, given all the things Zakawi's done, just since we've known him, they'd have to invent a personal deity for him alone to even start forgiving him.
Yeah, well, he's obviously done something really bad to her, to Livuetta.
It does also imply that
to multiple other people.
Skaffen might know more about the stuff he's known before they've met him as
True.
well. That's open there. But, yeah, and then she says, it doesn't work that way, Skaffen. And then he's like, or any other way. He thought to himself, but didn't say. So then we get a sense of the planet in crisis. I did like the way they sort of, they come out of these docks and then they're in a big city and there's a column of armoured personnel carriers going past. And nothing screams crisis like an armoured column in the middle of a city.
Or apparently culottes being the height of fashion.
Yes. I remember reading this as a 25-year-old, not knowing what culottes were. And I had to ask something? A woman.
Culottes are a very underrated piece of clothing.
Or particularly for a shorter woman.
Well, no, they're pants and a skirt in one.
Yeah?
They're great.
You're talking about your pleated culottes.
Well, I mean, you can have they're effectively pants that have a lot of volume. They're great.
Yes. Yeah.
You can, be active in them. You can bend over and not worry anyone's going to see you snatch. I mean, you'd think Sma would appreciate that, given all her snatch has been through.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously she's glad it's covered up now. And, yes.
And she's tall, so they would suit her.
Now, there was a bit of physical comedy about the Skaffen
Turning into a suitcase.
into a suitcase. That was quite funny. Hey, make like a suitcase. And then he's, he's really heavy and just like an empty suitcase asshole. Okay, then we get the troop carriers thundering past. That's it literally says she watched a line of troop carriers thunder past. That definitely screams something's going horribly wrong.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you are, when you are, if armoured vehicles are thundering through a civilian space, something's up. And we get this fun little feed of information as the ships are talking to Skaffen while she and the drone are trying to move through the city, and then keeps coming up with more information about what's going on. The man's insane, power mad. Forget Vorenhutz, which is meant to be the main quest line. We have to get him out of here for the sake of these people. Which is like, what? And then you get the stuff right where, so Zakawi's unlocked the genetic modifications the culture had made on him, and he's been selling the gene technology. Now, remember, this was pretty much the opening chapter?
Yeah, so...
With the ethnarch?
Oh, yeah. But when they say that oughtn't be possible, because when they talk about these aristocrats getting healthier and getting younger, and they're like, that oughtn't be possible for another 20, 30 years. Is that because they know the future, or they just because they know
They know the technology level they've got and where they're probably going to get to. And it's like, this is ahead of 30 years ahead of where they are. So
it's like what we think North Korea has with nuclear weapons. Because we know what technology they can and can't do.
Something similar, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I do love the sense that, because these are old dudes, normally everyone underneath them would be expecting them to die, so there's some stability and a willingness to wait. But because they're not getting older, suddenly all hell's breaking loose. Because all the ambitious young thrusters beneath are thinking, wait a minute, I'm never going to get my chance. Which, we talked about how Consider Phlebas introduced the concept of gerontocracy in the 1980s, and we're now living in advanced gerontocracy, certainly in the US, and it's quite terrifying to behold. Where they, if anyone's not sure, I'm talking about, Trump and Biden are both far too old to be the main contenders to be the president. Yeah. Okay. And then there's a mention of Ethnarch Kirian, who was our horrible leader who got killed. So that was 126 days ago, assassinated. So that gives you an idea of where the timelines are overlapping there.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So now that the culture's found out about this, they're like super annoyed because they're like, you've got one day to get a Zakawi or we're coming in for him.
So this is this business about displacing, which is the culture's word for teleporting, and how it's quite dangerous. So if they can avoid doing it, they do. But they're saying if you can't get him on your space shuttle in the next 24 hours, we're just going to beam him out. And if he's messed up by it or killed by it, we don't care.
We don't care.
Yeah. Having said that, it's described as like a 1 in 10,000 chance, which I guess in a society where people live forever, 1 in 10,000 is quite a big roll of the dice. But to us, less so.
It's mostly what happens when you have major surgery.
Yeah. Well, we sort of play more in 1 in 10s and 1 in 100s. Yeah. But there's a sense of a big crisis in the culture with going, what the hell's Zakawi doing?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously he's trying to play at making the same decisions that the culture makes, and they're not happy. Well, obviously they're not happy that he's doing it, and they think he's messing it up. Whether he's messing it up or not is, I guess, depends on what end state he's trying to achieve. But they're definitely not happy about it, and it looks like this planet is about to go critical. And as we know, when planets go critical at certain levels of technology, everyone dies. So we need to be smarter about that, don't we? Okay. Now, one thing I did sort of wonder about, that little trek through the city really achieved nothing except giving them a place for the drone to exposit about things they'd discovered Zakawi was up to. They sort of walked around and then they walked back to their boat.
Well, isn't that just because they found out that he'd gone in the submarine?
Yeah.
I guess you got the cool suitcase scene.
Yeah, but it was a pretty transitory... aside from the armoured personnel carriers thundering past, there wasn't really a lot going on.
True.
But, we got some action. We got another setting. That's all fine. So then we get the submarine chase. And
It's a chase.
Yeah, well, Zakawi's in a submarine doing 60 kilometres an hour.
Does he know they're chasing him?
Maybe. Well, they're trailing him. They're definitely trailing him.
Yeah, but I don't think he knows that.
We'll get to that. And 60 kilometres an hour is incredibly fast for a submarine.
Right, I have no idea.
But, to a spaceship, it's quite slow. Although there is that classic line in Futurama when they take the spaceship underwater and they say, what kind of depth is this spaceship rated to? And the professor's like, well, it's a spaceship, so it's rated to 1 atmosphere. But obviously culture spaceships can do more. And then Skaffen goes back to what a mess up he thinks Zakawi is. Sma, this man totally blew it that last time. We're 5 or 6 million down on that last job. Now, what do you think 5 or 6 million means?
Oh, God, does it mean people?
I think so.
Ooh.
Because it's not money.
Yeah.
It does indicate that Skaffen's keeping score in human lives in quite a major way, though. All because he wouldn't break out of the Winter Palace and balance things out. I could show you the scenes of terror there that would blanch your hair. So if you want to know what happened to that young woman in that chapter, that's a callback to that.
Oh, yeah.
Now he's come very close to instigating a global catastrophe here. Since the guy suffered what happened to him on Foals, since he started trying to be a good guy in his own right, he's been a disaster. And then he's saying, I'm not sure we're actually going to do anything useful when we take him where we're going. Never mind outing Beichai, offing Zakawi would be doing everyone a favour. And then Sma gets very angry with him.
Yes.
And saying, don't talk about human lives as though they're just collateral. And then remember that massacre you did, which, we had the flashback to that previous chapter. Excuse me, and then Skaffen saying, sorry to have offended your mammalian sensibilities. Will you ever let me forget it? And then the drone saying, if you are seriously trying to imply that I might kill Zakawi, all I can say is don't be ridiculous. So we'll put a pin in that for future chapters.
But later she says, maybe I'll kill him.
Well, I think she's speaking facetiously when she does it. She's not a killer the way this drone is, although I'm sure she's entirely capable of it. And I love this, we have our orders, and then he's like, agreed on courses of action, Sma. We don't have orders. That's kind of a fun one, you could use that somewhere, it's an agreed on course of action. And then she threatens to get rid of Skaffen, and he gets very huffy, saying that's the most hurtful thing you ever said to me, which is saying a lot, but I'll ignore it because we're both under a lot of stress at the moment. And then this lot. As you say, we lift the planet fucker and drop him on Voronhutz, though if the voyage goes on too much longer, it'll be taken out of our hands. Zakawi will wake up on Xenophobe or the GCU wondering what happened. All we can do is wait and see. And then Sma gets bored and is thinking about rubbing one out, is how I read this.
Yeah, I agree.
Saying, you sure you didn't record anything from that sort of orgy? Like,
Sort of
first
orgy.
night on the xenophobe? She says, positive. I'm just like,
I don't know how you can have a sort
Pity.
of orgy.
well, it's definitely an orgy, but she doesn't quite want to say it was an orgy. I mean, orgy's a harsh word from just a bunch of friends being friends, isn't it?
But they weren't really friends. They didn't even know each other.
Jill, look at Miss Judgmental over here.
I wasn't being judgmental. I'm just fact.
So the chase goes on for 9 hours, and then we get this more with the drone relaying things that the ships are telling it, which I found was actually quite a useful way of conveying a lot of information fast.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Zakawi saying goodbye to his girlfriend?
So I was just a bit confused on the timeline who that was.
Yeah, we haven't met her.
Right.
I mean, she's literally referred
Seems they get a lot of girlfriends.
Zakawi?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's a superhero.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. She's just referred to as the doxy. And this was another thing. I didn't know what a doxy was when I read this book the first, when I was, I guess a quarter of a century ago. I found that quite a confusing turn of phrase.
Doxy?
It's like just a disposable woman.
Oh. I didn't.
There's a sexual connotation to it.
Right.
You'd be like saying his root. So the line, the doxy just smashed a lot of ornaments and a couple of pieces of very valuable furniture and then ran off and buried herself in the bed weeping. But apart from that, Zakawi just sat down in the middle of the lounge with a large drink and said, and I quote, "Okay, if that's you, Sma, come and talk to me." And then she says, "I think I would like to kill Zakawi." And the drone says, "There's a cue." Okay, so that's the end of what happens in this chapter. Sheridan, tell us what you thought about it.
Well, it was a good chapter. One, again, very cinematic. It was quite, I mean, there was...
It was James Bondy, wasn't it? With submarines and beaches and,
Orgies.
Orgies, yeah. Orgy, in literature, you don't often get an orgy from the point of view of a female protagonist.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. And it got a pass mark in the way it was written?
I think it was a pass, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Sex positive?
Yeah. Female positive?
Yeah.
A credit to species.
You're going to ask me who my favourite character is.
I guess so, yeah.
It's
Who's your
a bit of
hero?
a tough one because there's just a lot of repeat characters. So I guess I'll have to say Sma because of the orgy.
Oh, okay. You didn't think Skaffen was amusing?
Well, I mean, he always is, but...
Okay, all right. Sma's your fave?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You didn't enjoy any of the ship names?
I didn't love the ship names.
Okay.
What was your favourite one?
No, I mean, there weren't. I mean, what was the thing? What are the civilian applications? It does imply I am an enormous Death Star.
Yeah.
What would you like me to obliterate? Civilian applications, yeah. Okay. So, is there anything else you took from this chapter or that you thought was new information that advanced the story for you?
Well, I mean, the Livuetta is obviously not a simple relationship.
I did also find that was interesting in that implied that the whole gang had gone to Zakawi's home planet at some point. But still claimed not to have any great knowledge of who he was or what had gone down there. And we're going to talk a lot more about that much later in the book. I mean, we're still in the first quarter of the book.
True.
Yeah.
There's a lot of... we pump out a lot of these episodes because there's so many chapters.
Yeah. Well, it's not like Player of Games. Thank God.
Thank God.
Which isn't to say we didn't enjoy Player Games. We just thought the chapters were a bit on they were novellas in their own right.
Yeah, I actually found it a bit of a struggle, frankly. I mean, I did like it, but...
Yep. Okay. So anything else you want to add for this episode, or should we wrap things up?
I'm pretty good. I think I've got everything out.
Okay. All right, folks. Well, hopefully we'll be back in a week with... Oh, what's the next chapter, Sharon?
Well, it's whatever Zakawi's one is.
Yep. So, it's X.
10.
Well, X.
Yeah, it's number 10.
So that seems like something that Elon Musk must love this one. Yes, but it's an auspicious chapter, and we will see what it brings from Zakawi's POV. Okay, folks, thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we are on Threads and Facebook and Twitter. So you can follow us there, but mostly
I don't think there is a Twitter anymore.
Sorry, X. Well, it's still X, formerly known as Twitter. I mean, it has to put formally...
Are you serious?
Yeah, it still puts formally Twitter in the emails and stuff. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Well, we won't see you soon, folks, but we'll be back in your ears as soon as Sheridan manages to read the next chapter. I've already read it.
Oh, God.
I had to skip ahead. Cool. Okay, see you soon, folks.
Bye.